Late at night, some fishermen are cleaning their boat when they suddenly see a bright light in the sky that ends up landing in the middle of the sea. They immediately head to that spot while trying to contact the Coast Guard. One of the men looks at the impact zone with a flashlight and screams in horror before he's dragged off the boat. Another fisherman runs to look for his missing friend, only to find blood on the railing. When he points his flashlight at the water, something brutally stabs him and throws him off the boat too. The last fisherman screams in grief for his father and doesn't hear the Coast Guard's answer on the radio. He grabs an axe and goes to investigate, but a noise in the darkness makes him step back in fear. The mysterious attacker then comes at him from above. The next morning on a small Irish island, Dr. Jim walks his dog on the beach and is shocked to find dozens of dead whales. Meanwhile, Officer Kieran wakes up with a hangover after another night of heavy drinking. The first thing he does is grab a bottle from the trash can and drink the few drops it has left. After putting on his uniform, he goes to the harbor to pick up Lisa, who has been assigned to be his new partner. Kieran is a bit rude to her and doesn't talk during the whole trip. At the police station, Lisa meets the chief, who is leaving for his 2-week vacation. Kieran is in a bad mood because he doesn't think he needs help to handle this boring little island and makes Lisa her coffee wrong on purpose. The chief ignores his complaints because he knows Kieran drinks too much, so he should be watched. At the harbor, fishermen Patty and Tig find something strange in one of their traps. When they try to take a closer look, the mysterious creature shoots water at Tig's face, which leaves him smelling horrible. Patty then puts on some protection and takes the trap to his bathtub. Moments later, Jim calls the officers to the beach to show them the dead whales and they meet marine ecologist Smith, who is already taking samples. Smith says that this happens to pilot whales from time to time, but nobody knows why. The deep cuts on the bodies are probably wounds from the rocks while they were being washed up on the beach. When Smith explains they all died in the sea at once, Kieran finds it too suspicious to be a coincidence. Afterward, the officers head to a construction site. Kieran talks to boss Declan and manages to borrow some heavy equipment to remove the whales from the beach. In just a few hours, all the bodies are being taken away on trucks and the team gets ready to leave. When a worker goes to pick up his shovel, he notices something strange buried in the sand. He starts digging to discover some peculiar spears that appear to be eggs. The man is about to leave with one of them, but suddenly his legs are hit and he falls. He screams in desperation as he's dragged into the sea to never return. In the car, Declan gets tired of waiting and goes looking for his employee. He finds the shovel but no man in sight, so he yells the man's name a few times to no avail. In the evening, Kieran and Patty are getting horribly drunk at the pub. Bartender Una notices the way Kieran looks at Lisa and tells him to do something, but Kieran ignores her and keeps drinking. Patty shares that he's caught a sea monster, which he's keeping in his bathtub. Kieran doesn't believe him and tries to leave, so Patty insults him. Una's husband Brian bans Patty from the pub as punishment. In the meantime, Tig is comfortable at home watching TV when he hears someone pounding on the door. He opens it to find Declan looking very pale and strangely swaying with his arms up. Suddenly Declan falls and Tig tries to check on him, only to discover that Declan is dead. At that moment, Tig is pulled up by something in the shadows and his wife Irene panics as she runs back into the house. She can hear Tig's painful screams and something moving on the roof. Irene quickly rushes from room to close them all and only calms down when everything is properly locked. Seeing dirt fall into the fireplace makes her realize she forgot about the chimney, so she reaches inside to try to close it too. However, she's pulled up to her death as well. Meanwhile, a very drunk Kieran visits Lisa, who is renting a room above the pub. He invites her to drink and mocks her when she says they have work in the morning, pointing out that there are no bosses to check on them. When Lisa gets annoyed, Kieran tries to step inside to talk things over and ends up bumping into a table. Lisa refuses to let him drive like this and volunteers to give him a ride. In the middle of the night, Patty checks the trap in his bathroom and finds it broken with an egg inside. After noticing a sticky substance on the mirror, he hears a noise and is shocked to see a terrifying monster on the wall. The creature immediately attacks him with its tongue but surprisingly pulls away in disgust. Then it jumps on Patty's head to try to kill him, breaking the light bulb in the process. In the darkness, Patty fights with the monster until he manages to throw it down and starts kicking it on the floor. In the morning, Una talks to Lisa about Kieran and reveals he's widowed. She says there's no need for him to be on the island, it's more like a sabbatical. Una tries to offer Lisa a room that she could share with Kieran, but Lisa turns her down. Afterward, Lisa goes to the station and opens a cell to reveal that Kieran spent the night there. When he wakes up, he thinks she arrested him, but Lisa explains that he passed out in the car before she could find his house. Then the officers get a call from Patty, who tells them what happened and brings them to Smith's lab. He's analyzing the body of the creature Patty caught, although he keeps getting distracted by flirting with Lisa. Smith admits he has no idea what the monster is, so Patty decides to call it Grabber. Using tongs, Smith pulls out the Grabber's tentacle-like tongue and concludes it sucks its victim's blood like a leech. When Smith cleans the Grabber's tentacles, its skin glows as it absorbs the water from the sponge. It seems it can survive on only blood and water. Smith also explains that this Grabber is female and pulls the egg from the trap, which he's cut open to reveal the baby monster inside. Next, the officers go to the beach to investigate and Kieran theorizes that the Grabbers killed the whales. They notice Declan's car has been abandoned on the sand with its keys, but they can't find Declan anywhere. The closest building to the beach is Tide's house, so they investigate it as well. The lights are still on and there's a piece of roof tile on the ground. While they look for a ladder, Lisa mentions how nice Smith is, which annoys Kieran. Lisa volunteers to get on the roof, so Kieran holds the ladder and keeps drinking. There's a piece of fabric that smells like Patty's rubber stuck on the chimney, so Lisa pulls until something falls and hits Kieran. To their shock, it's Tide's head. The duo takes the head to Jim, who concludes that Tide was mauled by a huge beast. They're interrupted by Patty, who drags them to his house to show them a huge hole in his wall and the broken tub in his yard. The group looks at a map to locate all the attached spots and tries to guess some kind of pattern. They also realize that the dead female grabber needs a male to make the eggs, so there's another beast on the loose. The male grabber probably broke the wall looking for his wife. Lisa remembers that Smith said the grabbers need water and wonders how they're surviving on land. Patty reminds her it was raining, so all the land is wet. Since there's a storm due tonight, they need to find the grabbers before they attack again. Patty explains he caught the female near the Black Rock Caves, a place that would give the grabber access to both water and the beach. When they reach the caves, Patty decides to wait outside. He finds more eggs in the sand and tries to take one, but he's startled by something moving inside the shell. In the cave, the officers look around and find the clothes of a dead fisherman. Kieran yells a few times hoping a survivor will answer, but instead he gets the attention of a male grabber who is much bigger and more terrifying than his wife. The duo immediately start running and Lisa gets stuck in a narrow passage, so Kieran touches her rear to push her through. They manage to reach the beach and think they're safe now because the grabber can't go through the narrow passage. However, it attacks with its very long tentacle tongue and takes Kieran's hat. The officers then start running again, bringing Patty with them. Afterward, they call the Coast Guard to inform them of an emergency, but the guard hangs up on them because they can't do anything until the storm is gone. The group then returns to the lab and Smith tells them that the whales were killed as a food source for the baby grabbers. Expecting the male grabber to come for his wife soon, Kieran and Lisa set the female grabber on fire. This activates the sprinklers, which quickly put the flames out and make the creature wet. The trio rushes to turn them off before grabbing some things to defend themselves. When they're close enough, the grabber awakens and shoots water at Kieran's face before jumping on him. Kieran stumbles all over the lab as he tries to pull the creature off, destroying several objects in the process. He finds an oar and starts hitting the grabber with it, but the monster won't even budge. When Kieran falls, Lisa and Smith grab the tentacles together and pull until they finally manage to get it off their friend's face. The grabber throws up Kieran's blood before collapsing, so the group proceeds to beat it up without mercy. Somehow it still moves, so they hit it again until it passes out. Then they remember that Patty also fought the creature, yet he's perfectly fine, while Kieran almost didn't survive. They realize that Patty was so drunk that his blood alcohol level was toxic for the grabbers. Since they can't leave the island or get help until the storm passes, their only solution for now is to avoid the rain and drink. At the pub, the group tells Brian the whole story. Since he doesn't believe them, they show him the female grabber that they're keeping in a tank. Una is curious about what they're doing, but they keep the creature hidden until she leaves. Afterward, Lisa explains that she's not used to drinking and she worries that if everyone is drunk, nobody will be fit to lead and protect. Kieran volunteers to stay sober because he knows this island best and gives Lisa his flask. Then the guys make Lisa drink until she gets drunk for the first time in her life, and they clap with pride. When Patty pulls out an illegal homebrew, Lisa tries it too and finds it disgusting, but it's also what finally pushes her over the edge. She keeps giggling and can barely stand, so the guys help her reach a chair. Smith takes a hefty sample of Lisa's intoxicated blood and offers the glass to the female grabber, who quickly drinks it all with its tentacle tongue. The creature immediately starts shaking and puking until it finally dies. Then Kieran measures Lisa's alcohol and the group realizes they'll really have to drink a lot to match her. In the evening, Kieran and Lisa go to the church to announce that the pub bar is having a huge party tonight. However, the crowd is confused because a very drunk Lisa keeps saying nonsensical stuff and touching Kieran. He manages to get them excited by announcing a free bar, which leaves Brian very frustrated. Moments later, all the locals are happily drinking and singing at the bar. Even the elderly are getting absolutely wasted. The heroes bring any useful object they can use as a weapon since they don't have any firearms and make a toast, planning not to let anyone out. In the kitchen, Smith tries Patty's strong homebrew and ends up falling asleep. While it begins to rain, Kieran and Lisa keep an eye out in the car. Suddenly Lisa admits she likes Kieran, but he refuses to accept a confession from a drunk mind. She cries as she admits she never stops working because she's always running. After saying she feels like she's known Kieran for years, she offers her sympathies for his wife. However, Kieran clarifies that his wife didn't die, they divorced because she met someone else and he started to drink afterward. Meanwhile, Jim hasn't drunk much yet, but he already feels bloated, so he goes outside to relieve himself. Suddenly he hears a noise and turns around to discover dozens of baby grabbers on the ground. Soon they surround him and one of them jumps on his face. Hearing the screaming, Lisa and Kieran rush to help. Lisa hits the babies with a golf club, sometimes kicking them too. Kieran pulls the attacker's tail until he manages to separate it from Jim and throws it away. At that moment, the huge male grabber appears nearby and reaches out to capture Jim with a tentacle. It drags him close and stands above him before opening its mouth to descend in one smooth motion, devouring Jim whole. Then it burps to spit out Jim's head. Lisa and Kieran run back to the car in fear, but it won't start because the grabber is now on the roof. Soon it lands on the hood and roars at them, so Lisa desperately honks the horn while saying she'll have to arrest the monster. Brian contacts them on the radio to inform them he's out of booze, so Kieran asks him to open the back door. When Lisa activates the police siren, the grabber is distracted long enough for the officers to run away. Brian brings them inside while the creature begins furiously destroying the vehicle. The group enters the pub through the kitchen door and awakens Smith, who can barely move. While the officers try to move the furniture to barricade the door, Brian grabs a water pistol filled with petrol and makes Smith light its wick on fire. Then Brian runs outside, ready to use the water gun as a flamethrower. However, the rain puts the little flame out and the petrol doesn't reach too far. The grabber is coming for him, but Kieran catches Brian first and quickly brings him back inside. The group locks the door right before Yuna enters the kitchen. She hears weird noises outside and wonders what it is, but they keep lying to her and everyone returns to the bar. While Kieran struggles with the temptation to drink, Brian reminds his friends that he's out of alcohol and the rest of the kegs are outside. Kieran stands on a chair and tries to tell the crowd to move the party upstairs, but nobody listens to him. At the same time, Brian blames the invasion on Patty and they start fighting, so Kieran has to pull them apart. Then a very drunk Smith says they need more alcohol and goes outside with his camera, claiming he needs a picture for National Geographic. Smith tells him to come back, but Patty encourages him to get the kicks. Soon the male grabber tries to attack Smith, but is steps back every time he takes a picture with Flash. When Smith finally stops, the creature comes closer, and only the smell of alcohol stops it from eating him. Smith starts bragging about his success, so the grabber hits him with a tentacle and sends him flying into the sea. Then the monster roars and the crowd finally becomes aware of its presence, so they panic as they run upstairs. While the bar door is brought down and the baby grabbers make their way inside, the group reaches the first floor and Kieran barricades the door. He tells the crowd that the alcohol will keep them safe and asks them to stay away from the windows. A few hours later, Brian takes a peek and discovers that the grabber is swinging a sheep at the door. Their alcohol levels are starting to go down, so they need to think of a plan. Kieran says they need to keep the creature away from water, so Lisa proposes using the shame equipment they used to move the whales to trap the grabber in the air until the sun dries it out. Everyone agrees it's a good idea, but nobody wants to go out. Lisa volunteers, pointing out she's the most drunk person here. They give her a nail gun to defend herself and she almost kills a guy. Then she trips and rolls down when she tries to take the stairs. In the bar, the babies are destroying everything as they desperately search for food. They attack Lisa when she comes back, but she nails one to the counter with a gun and kicks the other one before entering the kitchen. She finds Patty's homebrew mix, Smith's lighter, and Brian's truck keys. Suddenly the grabber starts making its way inside and Lisa randomly shoots some nails, only to destroy the electrical box instead. The pub loses power while she runs with the lighter as her only source of light. A tentacle grabs her leg to bring her down, so the light falls and sets the bar on fire. When the grabber drags Lisa back into the kitchen, she grabs a knife and strikes the tentacle until it bleeds and mud spill off her. Soon the people upstairs smell the smoke. Kieran rushes downstairs to look for Lisa, but Brian stops him from walking into the fire and makes him climb out the window instead. Meanwhile, the grabber appears at the opposite window and everyone panics as the whole building shakes. Kieran almost falls off, but Lisa shows up in Brian's truck and Kieran safely lands on it. As the truck takes off, the grabber follows it. The vehicle's radio receives a message from the pub, thanking the officers for taking the risk because now they can evacuate. At the construction site, Lisa stops the truck by crashing it into some mud. While she goes looking for the equipment, Kieran walks on a flimsy platform and jumps over the hole just in time to dodge the grabber's attack. He plans to shoot some petrol barrels when the beast is close enough, but the grabber attacks him from afar with its tongue. Kieran falls into a hole and hurts his leg, but he still keeps his flare gun pointed at the barrels. When the grabber is about to reach him, Lisa appears in a construction vehicle and pushes the creature into the hole, leaving it trapped under the equipment. Then Kieran climbs out of the hole and Lisa wants to celebrate with a drink, but suddenly a tentacle grabs him. Before it drags him down, he takes the bottle from Lisa's hands. When Kieran pours the alcohol into the grabber's mouth, it gets so angry that it throws him back to the top. Lisa quickly takes the flare gun and shoots the barrels, causing a huge explosion that finally kills the monster. As the sun rises, Lisa gives Kieran his flask back, but he throws it away. Lisa wonders if she should go home to rest, so Kieran tells her that this should be her home. While they share a sweet kiss, the eggs on the beach start to crack.